Hi everyone, tonight we're tracking a high-stakes argument unfolding in Washington 1 that hinges on a single word that always changes the temperature in American politics: impeachment. Here's why this matters right now, and here's the sequence. First, House Majority Leader Steve Scalise, senior Republican leader in the House, laid out a Republican view of what Democrats would do if they regain power, arguing their ultimate goal is to impeach President Donald Trump and block his agenda. That claim appears in a Fox News segment featuring Scalise. Second, the president has publicly framed the 2026 midterms as a direct threat to his presidency, telling Republicans they need to win or Democrats will find a reason to impeach him. According to Reuters, PBS NewsHour also reported the same quote in its news wrap. Now slow down. Because there are two different things that can get blended together: political messaging about what the other party intends to do, and the actual constitutional process of impeachment, what it requires, what votes it needs, and what evidence would have to be developed to justify it. Tonight, we're going to separate what's claimed from what's confirmed, and then explain what this means for governing, oversight, and the midterm election environment, using publicly reported information and clearly attributed sources. Let's start with the role at the center of this. The House Majority Leader is one of the top leadership positions in the U.S. House of Representatives. It's not just a media title, it reflects influence inside the chamber and within the majority party. In the segment that set off today's discussion, Majority Leader Steve Scalise argued Democrats want to impeach President Trump and shut down his agenda. That is Scalise's view and framing of Democratic intentions, delivered in a television interview context. But the reason this lands with force is that impeachment is not a theoretical topic in 2026 politics. According to the Associated Press, the House recently voted to shelve an impeachment effort brought by Democratic Representative Al Green of Texas. The AP reported the vote was 237 to 140, with 47 Democratic lawmakers voting present. In that same AP reporting, Democratic leaders, including House Minority Leader Hakeem Jeffries, emphasized that impeachment is serious and requires a comprehensive investigative process, and they did not back that specific effort outright. And separately, ABC News reports there is a rising clamor for impeachment among some Democrats and activists, while other Democrats are focused on the midterms and cost of living issues and are cautious about making impeachment a central pledge. So the verified context is this: Republicans are warning about impeachment and agenda obstruction. Some Democrats support impeachment. Others, including leadership stress process and investigation. A House vote described by AP did not move an impeachment effort forward. That's the ground we can stand on. Now we build from there. Let's handle this carefully. In the news segment, Scalise claims Democrats' ultimate goal is impeachment and blocking the president's agenda. That is a political assertion about what Democrats intend to do if they control the House. It is not by itself proof of a unified Democratic plan, because it describes motives and future action. So the responsible next step is not to assume intent. The responsible step is to look at observable actions, statements from Democratic leadership, filed measures, and recorded votes. According to the Associated Press, the House voted 237 to 140 to shelve Rep. Al Green's impeachment resolution, with 47 Democrats voting present. The AP described the result as expected and noted it suggested changes in support compared to earlier efforts. What matters here is not just the final number, it's what it signals. There are Democrats willing to push impeachment, but Democratic leadership, according to AP, emphasized that impeachment requires investigative work that had not been undertaken, and they chose not to fully endorse that measure. The AP also reported that Rep. Ted Lewis said Democrats have a diversity of views and that winning the House would not automatically guarantee an impeachment vote, pointing again to process and investigation as prerequisites. So, when you hear the Republican argument, Democrats will impeach, the verified record shows a more complicated picture. Action exists, but caucus consensus does not appear automatic, and leadership is emphasizing institutional steps. Now to the second piece of the sequence, the president's own remarks. Reuters reports President Trump told Republican lawmakers that Republicans must win the midterms or Democrats will find a reason to impeach him, and he said, "I'll get impeached." Reuters also notes that Trump was impeached twice during his first term and acquitted in the Senate both times. PBS NewsHour's news wrap also reported the president's warning with the quote included in its segment. So this isn't only Republicans predicting what Democrats might do. It's also the president publicly placing impeachment into the midterm narrative. Now zoom out, because the word impeachment can mislead people if it's treated like an instant event. Impeachment is a formal constitutional process with stages. The House can approve articles of impeachment by a majority vote. The Senate then conducts a trial, and conviction requires a two-thirds vote historically, a very high threshold. That's why Reuters' reminder is important. Trump was impeached twice in his first term and acquitted by the Senate in both cases. So when we talk about Democrats impeaching, we have to ask, are leaders calling for investigations? Are committees gathering evidence? Is there a clear majority in the House? And is there any realistic path to a Senate conviction? Those are not political questions. Those are procedural realities. Now, let's address the other half of Scalise's argument, blocking the agenda. Even without impeachment, a House majority can slow or stop a president's legislative goals in very practical, very normal ways. Control of what gets voted on. The House majority influences the schedule and which bills reach the floor. Oversight. Committees can hold hearings, request documents, and investigate executive actions. That oversight can be routine, or it can be aggressive depending on the political environment. Budgets and deadlines. Funding deadlines can force negotiation and can stall broader goals. Reuters makes a related point in its reporting. The midterm elections could stall the president's agenda and expose him to investigations. So from an institutional standpoint, blocking the agenda can mean divided government dynamics, not necessarily impeachment. Now, what is the Democratic leadership posture based on public reporting? According to AP, Democratic leaders argued impeachment requires a comprehensive investigative process and emphasized the gravity of such proceedings, while choosing not to oppose the motion in the way the story describes. ABC News reports that some Democrats are calling for impeachment, including discussions among progressive members and activists, while other Democrats emphasize focusing on voters' everyday concerns like cost of living. ABC also quoted Rep. Jamie Raskin describing a rising clamor and discussing the need for a structured method of thinking through potential issues. The key takeaway: Democrats are not being reported as operating as a single unit on this. There are multiple currents: activist pressure, member-level pushes, and leadership emphasis on process. So what's the impact of this moment right now? Impact 1. The midterms are being framed as a vote about oversight itself. When senior Republicans say Democrats' goal is impeachment, and the president says losing the midterms means he'll be impeached, the election becomes a fight not just over policies, but over the power relationship between Congress and the White House. Impact 2. Governing becomes harder when impeachment becomes the center of gravity. Even if impeachment never advances, the constant threat can reduce incentives for bipartisan deals, because every vote can be viewed through the lens of future conflict. Impact 3. Public trust depends on process, not volume. If impeachment is ever pursued, credibility depends on a clear investigative record, transparent standards, and due process, something Democratic leaders referenced in the AP report when emphasizing investigation and seriousness. And if it's not pursued, the debate still has consequences. It can change what Congress prioritizes, what committees investigate, and how the White House frames opposition. So here's where we leave this tonight. The House Majority Leader is outlining a Republican view that Democrats want impeachment and want to block President Trump's agenda, a claim made in a televised interview context. At the same time, the president is explicitly tying the midterm outcome to impeachment risk, according to Reuters and PBS NewsHour. But the documented record also shows this. Impeachment-related action has been raised, has faced resistance in the House, as reported by AP. And Democratic leaders have emphasized investigative process and the seriousness of the mechanism. The unresolved test isn't a prediction about what will happen. The unresolved test is procedural and institutional. Will the next phase of Congress, regardless of who wins, be defined mainly by lawmaking and oversight, or by escalation around impeachment as a political organizing principle? That question isn't answered by a headline. It's answered by the next votes, the next committee decisions, and the next election step by step.